Week 10 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I've looked to sell high and trade away. The first guy is Austin Meadows of the Tampa Bay Rays. So Austin Meadows, he's been on a tear over the last few weeks here for this Ray team, and on the season for him, 14 home runs, 48 RBIs, 37 runs scored, a 243 batting average, and a 347 on base percentage in the last couple weeks here for Meadows. 5 home runs, 19 RBIs, a stolen base, a 333 batting average, and a 444 on base percentage. So Meadows, he's been driving in runs. He's been hitting the ball well, and he's hitting for power now. And this guy obviously was a former top prospect seasons ago for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And maybe right now he's getting into the zone here. Full potential, but I just don't think it's going to keep up. And while his value's at a peak, it's definitely time to sell him high and trade him away. Obviously, I wouldn't dump him just for anything. But if I could get a great deal for him, this is the time to do it. June 2nd at the Yankees, 1 for 5 with a run. June 3rd at the Yankees, 2 for 5, a homer, 5 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. June 4th at Texas, 1 for 4 with a run. June 5th at Texas, 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs. June 6th at Texas, 2 for 5, 2 RBIs, and a run. And June 8th versus Washington, 0 for 4 with a run. So Meadows, it seems like he's getting a hit each and every day, except yesterday, and he's driving the ball like I mentioned. He's driving in runs, but right now I just don't think he's going to keep up this pace, especially the batting average like he has in the last couple weeks at 333. The next hitter I look to sell high and trade away this week, Kento Marte of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So Marte, he came off the injury list a few weeks ago, and now he's starting to play well, is Kento Marte, but I just don't think these numbers are going to stay up to par here. And it's great he qualifies at second, short, and outfield, and that even bumps his value up more when you're looking to sell him high this week. So on the season, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, 15 runs scored, a 366 batting average, and a 400 on base. But like I said, he was injured for a while, and he only has 93 at-bats on the season. And in the last couple weeks, though, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored, a 409 batting average, and a 409 on base. So right now, those numbers right there just tell me he's not going to keep up that batting average, especially for a guy who's been a free swinger for the most part of the season, because obviously the last couple weeks, all the times he's got on base, he's got a hit, so he's not reaching base with walks or hit by pitches. And right now, I just don't think he's going to keep up this 366 batting average. And like I said, it's a small sample size here for Marte on the season here. We're only 93 at-bats of the last few games for him. June 2nd versus the Mets, 1 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs. June 3rd in Milwaukee, 4 for 5 with a run and a ribby. June 4th he sat out. June 5th at Milwaukee, 2 for 5 with a run. June 6th at Milwaukee, 2 for 4. June 8th at Oakland, 0 for 4. And a game in progress right now here on June 9th at Oakland. So far he's 0 for 1, and it's top of the second inning over there in Oakland. So right here, Marte, he's batting second for this team. But the last couple games, he hasn't gotten a hit in there. And we'll see what he does when the season's all said and done. But right now, while he's hitting lights out, it's definitely a good time to sell him high, in my opinion. The next hit is Cedric Mullins of the Baltimore Orioles. Cedric Mullins, he's been a good player this season for the most part. 9 home runs, 19 RBIs, 33 runs scored, 9 stolen bases, a 325 batting average, and a 394 on base. So right here, he's a good hitter. He's a pure hitter. And for this Baltimore Oriole team, he plays each and every day, and he's the table setter batting leadoff in the last couple weeks here for Mullins. He's really picked things up once again. 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 8 runs scored, a 435 batting average, and a 500 on base. So right here, he's getting 2 or 3 hits a game, it seems like, especially over the last week here for Mullins. And Mullins, he's a quick player. Like I said, he's going to help in stolen bases. He's going to have a pretty decent batting average, but I just don't buy these inflated numbers right now here for Mullins. I think it's going to drop off a little. And right now, while he's tearing the cover off the ball as well, he's definitely a sell-high candidate. And he's been showing power as well, which I don't think he's really going to end the season with big power numbers. So far, the last couple games here for him. June 2nd versus Minnesota, 1 for 4. June 4th versus the Indians, 1 for 3. June 5th versus the Indians, a monster game, 5 for 5, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored. June 6th versus Cleveland, 3 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. And then yesterday versus the New York Mets, 2 for 4 with a run and an RBI. So Mullins, he's got 3 multi-hit games in his last 3 games. And in his last 3 games for Mullins, he's got 10 hits, so he's on a total hot streak. And this is the perfect time to sell him high right now, in my opinion. The next hitter is Tyrone ONeal of the St. Louis Cardinals. So Tyrone ONeal, he's been a tricky player so far this season in fantasy baseball. Some weeks I said pick him up on the waiver wire, and then some weeks he just hasn't done anything, and he was a droppable player. But right now, he's finally finding his way as ONeal. And on the season, 13 home runs, 29 RBIs for him, 5 stolen bases, 26 runs scored, a 279 batting average, and a 314 on base. So those are great numbers so far in the season. And the last couple weeks is where he's really getting it going. 5 home runs, 11 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a 340 batting average, and a 367 on base. So ONeal, he's going out there, he's putting the ball over the fence, and he's hitting for a great batting average. But he's another player, in my opinion, that could be hot and cold and not consistent each and every week here for fantasy owners. So right now, while he's on a crazy hot streak, he's definitely a time to go out there and sell him high, in my opinion, is ONeal. I think you could get a good starting pitcher for him, or you do a 1-for-1 swap with another hitter with similar numbers who you think is going to have a better season when it's all said and done. So the last few games here for ONeal: June 2nd at the Dodgers, 1-for-2. June 3rd versus Cincinnati, 1-for-4 with a run and an RBI. June 4th versus Cincinnati, 0-for-3 with an RBI. June 5th versus Cincy, 2-for-4. June 6th versus Cincy, 1-for-5, a homer, 2 RBIs. And June 8th, 1-for-3 with a run versus the Cleveland Indians. So he's going out there, he's producing, and he's hitting the baseball pretty well. And the 13 home runs, I don't think is fluky, but I just don't think the batting average is going to stay consistent in the 280 range here this season. And the 5th and final hitter I would look to sell high and trade away here is Jesse Winker of the Cincinnati Reds. So I spoke about Winker a lot this season, and he's having a monster season, no doubt about it. 17 homers, 37 RBIs, 44 runs, a 346 batting average, and a 407 on base. So Winker, he's on some type of breakout season right now, but I don't know if second half of the season he's going to continue it. 17 home runs is a huge number already to put up, and I know he plays in a small bandbox over there in Cincinnati, but I just don't think these numbers are going to stay. And even the batting average is definitely fluky to me at 346, when last season he only batted 255, but maybe he's proven people wrong. Maybe it's his breakout season like I mentioned, but right now, while his value's way up there in fantasy baseball, he's a definitely sell high candidate. And the last couple weeks here for Winker: 4 home runs, 9 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a 348 batting average, and a 429 on base in the last few games for Winker. June 3rd at St. Louis, 3-for-5, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. June 4th for Winker at St. Louis, 1-for-5 with a run. June 5th at St. Louis, 1-for-4 with a ribby. June 6th at St. Louis, this was the monster game that got him most of the stats for the last couple weeks. 3 homers in the game, 6 RBIs, 3 runs scored. And June 8th versus Milwaukee, 1-for-5. So Winker, he's got 2-3 home run games this season. And if you take those away, let's say, that's still a decent number with 11 home runs on the year. But right here, he's had a couple big ball games as Winker that definitely inflated his stats. But right now, I just don't think this pace for Winker is sustainable. And right now, while his value's at a peak, he's a definitely sell high candidate where you could get a lot from. So that's a few hitters I would look to sell high and trade away here in week 10 of the fantasy baseball season.